You're listening to The Ranch Sit-Down with your host, Shayne Hollinger.
We are joined today by our friend Garrett Bryan from Garrett Bryan and the Traveling Committee. How are you, man?
Great. Thanks for having me, brother.
What's the meaning behind the name Traveling Committee?
The Traveling City Committee, just because they don't normally travel.
Right.
Our drummer came up with it. I thought it was the right amount of long, like too long,
Right.
and kind of fun, like not serious.
Right.
I hated when I first left Callahan Divide and I started my own little band. Whenever I'd come do shows for y'all at like the Trinity River or stuff like that.
Yeah.
I hated hearing, and up next, Garrett Bryan Band. I don't know why, but I hated hearing that. And I didn't want to see it on a T-shirt, and so I was like, let's make it as long as possible, and let's try to make somebody giggle when they have to say it.
Have you ever done it like on a T-shirt where like the name just kind of wraps around?
No,
towards the
but
back?
that's a great idea.
That would be awesome. It
That's
just
a great
keeps
idea.
going.
I could definitely do a full wraparound tattoo.
Right.
Yeah, like touches edges.
It's like 2 rows.
Yeah.
That would be funny. So, Garrett, what got you started in music?
Well, I come from a musical family,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm from Louisiana, and so a lot of uncles and my dad and stuff like that, everybody played. When I moved to Texas, I was like a young teen, and so I kind of fell in love with music in Louisiana, and when I moved to Texas is the first time I was like privy to like independent music or songwriters per se, and so I already loved music as a child, but I already kind of played some instruments, but when I got to Texas, I started falling in love with writing. And from there, I mean, yeah, it took moving to Abilene to even meet someone that had written a song.
Yeah, and you don't hear of a lot of songwriters that come from Abilene, Texas. Like that's
You
where
didn't.
their inspiration strikes first.
You definitely didn't. There's plenty of us now, but when I moved there, it didn't seem like there was anyone.
Now, I understand the parish you lived at in Louisiana is famous for some other musician.
Yeah, Jerry Lee, the famous cousins, Jerry Lee Lewis,
Yeah.
Mickey Gilley,
Uh-huh.
Jimmy Swagger. And so that's my relationship with the piano, is like walking up to it and beating the crap out of it. You know? And so,
Well, that's what you were shown
Yeah,
growing up. Like,
yeah,
here,
it's-
you got to watch this guy. He's from here.
exactly. Yeah, I actually just saw a video yesterday. This young cat from Faraday, where those guys are from the next town over. But this one cat, he's playing at Jerry Lee's Cafe in Memphis. He's probably 17, if that. And he's fronting this Jerry Lee tribute band, basically. The dude looks and sounds just like a young Jerry Lee. He plays the piano like a young Jerry. I forget his name. But just here, everyone kind of has. I've been in Texas long enough to lose a little bit of my accent that's there.
No, you haven't.
Sure.
I still hear
But you
it.
you think I haven't, but listen to this dude.
Oh, really?
Listen to this dude talking. It's like he sounds like a tractor. You know what I'm saying?
That's hilarious.
Yeah, and so to see, I grew up seeing all this like archival footage of all those guys, and right in Faraday, Louisiana, the Delta Music Hall of Fame is there. So the first time I ever saw live music, I saw my dad's band open up for Percy Sledge when they inducted him,
Wow.
and so yeah, I mean I was probably like 8 or 9, and it was my first time really being in a sea of people with going to see music. And I was immediately just pulled to the backstage where my dad is and all these crew members are and things. And that was definitely a fork in the road for me. I don't know, even as a kid, I was like, I belong on this side of stuff. You know what I mean?
You just feel it.
Yeah. I'm supposed to be here talking to this sound dude.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
Talking to guitar tech,
Yeah, whatever.
setting everything up. Well, so what did Dad say when you finally tell him, hey, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to do music. Did he say, don't, please, God?
Well,
run?
it didn't surprise anyone because he had done it for a living on a small scale for a while, and so it wasn't weird that I wanted to do it. But I remember being 12 or 13 or so and him giving me a bass guitar for Christmas. I did not ask for this bass guitar. I didn't want a bass guitar. I had enough cool instruments. And I think I even remember asking for something else that wasn't a bass guitar. But he gave me that, and he said, if you learn it correctly, emphasis on correctly.
Right,
If you learn it correctly, you'll never have to work a real job. But there's finesse to this. You can't just play it like a guitar player. You really have to learn it correctly.
Right.
And so I basically ignored that for a while. I learned it correctly, but I was trying to play guitar and I was trying to sing and things of that nature. And then I'm 18 or so, and I get the call to be in Callahan Divide. They need a bass player. So when I call my dad, I've been in cover bands and stuff and playing little clubs and stuff. But when I call my dad and tell him that like this legitimate group that's making records and touring needs me to come play bass. He's like, I told you. I told you they would.
Don't you wish you would have learned how to play this correctly?
Right. Yeah, exactly. Dude, every time I load in, I wish I was a harmonica player at this point. I've been doing it for so long. I'm tired of carrying heavy stuff. But I'm lucky to have that bass background, especially like in the studio now. Everything's rooted. Music is really rooted in that sonic space of that instrument and kind of goes outward from there. And so my dad was right, and I'll tell him he's right. And because of that knowledge, I got a really cool introduction to this whole music scene through that band, the industry through that band, and learning just how to gig and learning what a clean stage looks like and learning how to share space on a bench seat in a van with somebody, learning how to share a hotel room with somebody. Those are all vital. If you're going to gig for a living, you're going to go out there and tour, you need to know the etiquette of that stuff.
That's the part they don't teach you when they say,
no,
man,
dude,
you want to be in music. It's so cool.
Yeah, and when you're a kid and you're like learning guitar on your edge of your bed, you're not thinking like, well, I need to like buy some lights.
Yeah.
Or like, I'm really going to have to spend a few grand on a PA. You're not thinking that type of stuff. You're just like, I like this chord, and it sounds good with this chord. Mm-hmm. When I joined that band, like, I don't know, I may be not cutting myself enough slack because I was a kid, but like that was the extent of it. I knew how to like lead a rehearsal because I saw my dad do that. I saw my uncles do that, and so even though I was a kid in high school, I knew how to be like, okay, everybody, shut up. We're gonna do this song now. 1, 2, 3, go. Okay, right there, we need to change that right there. I knew how to do that, but I didn't really know how to live life as a young adult on the road.
Right.
And that group taught me how to do that, and learning the bass allowed me to do that.
Was that just a rough awakening call for you?
No, man, I felt
first,
it was
just feel natural.
Yeah, super natural, and those guys never treated me like I was a kid, and I really appreciated that.
Right.
I think I tried really hard to like rush out of my youth, and they kind of let me do that. Even though they were probably like, that's not smart, you shouldn't do that. And looking back now, I kind of wish I wouldn't have. But I'm almost the age, this year I'll be the age that I used to lie to everyone that I was. When I was in these clubs at like 16, 18, even 20, like I would just walk around being like, I'm 28. And I basically looked like this. Mm-hmm. I haven't aged a bit.
You haven't. It kind of pisses me off, to be honest.
I'm starting to feel it, though.
Yeah, but
regardless of seeing
on days like today when it's 105 degrees.
Yeah, dude. Oh, yeah, when you put the address to your studio here in the map, and you're in this, like, the map knows you're in a car.
Heat warning.
Yeah, it's like you're in a car, and I still need to warn you, like, it's hot. It's, like, dangerously hot.
Like your tires may melt.
Yeah.
Yeah. Good grief. So who would you consider to be some of your musical influences in growing up? Because your music is, it's like your sound is so diverse, and you can tell that you started off playing bass like that.
Yeah.
Because there is a lot of cool backbeat into your songs.
Thanks.
But like you're very unique, and that's one of the things I love about you. Is
Thanks.
you don't sound like everybody else.
I think the diversity comes from being in those rooms as a kid with those cover bands. Mm-hmm. And I think when I was a kid, listening to my dad and my uncles in these different groups, they would play like a George song, and then they would play like a Pearl Jam song, and they weren't going, and in between those, they weren't being like, okay, Garrett, now this song is this, and this song is this, and so I don't think there was like a divide of that when I was growing up. I just liked music, and I still believe like there's two kinds of music, good and
music and bad music, yeah.
And I don't know, I like to think of, especially what we're doing as a collective, as like this gumbo pot of stuff.
Right.
And so I guess at the end of the day, the decisions are mine to make, but part of my vision is just allowing for collaboration. And so sometimes these influences come in, they aren't necessarily mine. You know what I mean? Like I'm allowing for this drummer that's bringing all of his influences in from maybe like a hip-hop world that I'm not as privy in, and we're putting it into this folk narrative thing.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that's what making stuff is to me with other people. If it was like a selfish endeavor completely in the studio, I wouldn't. And I can play the drums. So like, if I wanted it to be like me, I would just do it.
Right.
But I want his flavor of it all, or whatever that is. Or like Ivy, our keyboard player, like I've played piano way longer than her. I come from piano. I come from Concordia, Paris. I come from piano.
Piano USA.
But when we record, very seldomly, if you hear a piano track, every now and then, every now and then it's me.
Mm-hmm.
But I want her because I like her touch of it. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? I want her influences. I don't want it to be, I want it to taste more like a gumbo rather than like spaghetti,
Mm-hmm.
you know, musically.
That is very interesting, and like it's got to be kind of fun for you at some points when you're in that studio and like, all right, give me your idea on this, and it's something you never even thought of.
No. Yeah, and it makes for, I want to be wowed.
Yeah.
And if I've lived through this thing that I've written about, and I wrote this thing, and I edited this thing, and I've basically made the composition, by the time we take it there, that's the only way to surprise me,
Mm-hmm.
is if someone else's influences infiltrate it. Callahan Divide did teach me that too.
Yeah.
Because even though towards the end of that group, I was ready to make a full decision rather than like a fourth of a decision, but that is what being in that democrative, creative space is like allowing for, sometimes you may not like it. Is it really about what you like right now? Or is it really about what these people can do to this piece of art? And I'm more selfish with it now because it's my face and my name attached to it, but I still allow for that space. 100%.
That's a good thing. And man, I remember Callahan Divide, and you would sing a couple of songs on that, and it was the first time I heard your voice, I'm like, there's something here, man.
I appreciate that.
Garrett Bryan is a star in the making.
I appreciate that.
You just had this cool sound, and it's just really interesting. That had to be exciting for you to get your voice out there like that.
It was exciting because everyone in that group, talking about Callahan Divide, everyone in that group wrote songs, and we would just give them to Colton, the other singer, to sing. And the first or second or third song that I pitched to everyone, they all collectively were like, you should probably sing this one. This doesn't sound right when Colton does it. I was like, okay, we'll try it. And that was Pirate.
Yeah.
And that song did better on radio than almost any other Callahan song previous to that did, especially.
Yeah.
But maybe even after. And so, like, when I joined that band, I was a fan of that band. And so to come on board and, like, not just help in, like, this sonic space, homie on the roadway, but, like, legitimately help in, like, a stepping stone to the industry way.
Yeah.
That made me feel, like, really good. And it made me feel like I do have something to offer. If it's with this group or if it's something I just do by myself, I do have something to offer this space of music. This like independent.
It validates you as a musician.
100%.
It really does. It really does.
Yeah.
So what people go, so you're a musician. What kind of music do you play?
Normally just because of how I speak, people just assume it's really country.
Right.
And if they're the kind, if we're just meeting on the corner of the street here and you just say, "Do you play country music?" I just say yes. Mm-hmm. Because you're not going to go listen. You're not going to go listen to it. You know what I'm saying? You're not going to go listen to it.
Right.
Well, it's like, and it's what I make is such a intricate thing. Like, and I'm not saying that because it's like my baby or anything. I'm looking at it in a very objective way. I'm not like, I've written so many songs now. When I go and record these things, I'm not like, we can't change that. It's not that close to me. I'm looking at it like a piece of work.
Right.
And so it's like, I know every influence that went into every song, even if it's not mine, because we talk about it. And I have ears. You listen to this newest record that I have coming out in July, the 21st. Shameless plug on that. It's like the whole album is like, as a band, it's like our ode to our favorite portions of rock and roll.
Really?
Yeah, and so like there's Fleetwood Mac in there, and you obviously hear. You know that when you hear that, even if this is a new song from maybe a new band that you've never heard. But when you hear that flavor of rock and roll, it's us tipping our hat to that. It's few more songs is like us tipping our hat to like the Beach Boys and Prince, and the list goes on. But like that's the whole point of that album anyway. It for me and the group is to be like, this is our favorite types of rock and roll from like, and it's none of it's necessary. It doesn't have to sound old per se,
right? Yeah.
But we are recording it with vintage gear, and we are putting it on vinyl records because like that's the closest we can get to our influences.
Right.
Is using that stuff and using it in a way that's like, how can we do this and try to make it ours? How can we steal it without it being stolen? Basically,
right.
How can we use it without it plagiarizing something?
It's kind of an homage,
Exactly.
a respect thing.
Absolutely.
So is this all analog that you're recording this?
Yeah, this last record we did at Yellow Dog.
Oh, okay,
and,
yeah.
We did our last few at Yellow Dog.
Yeah.
And yeah, we as a band, even if we haven't done pre-production on stuff, it's like, let's just go in there and get the take. We can do it. Let's talk about it. Let's record it to tape, and let's run it back through a different tape machine. Let's make it as warm as it can be.
Yeah.
Before it's even mixed,
That's fun. I can't wait to hear this.
Yeah, dude, I'm excited.
Play us one,
Yeah.
maybe off the new album?
Yeah,
Is that possible?
Yeah, oh yeah. Yeah.
Garrett Bryan in studio with us. What are we going to hear here, buddy?
Let's do one called Paper Mache. If you're from the South, it's Paper Mache. And if you're not, it's Papier Mache. Tired of being here, fired up and ready to go. Liar, feed me fear. With it I can't tell you what I know. Even if you glue my heart back together, you and I will still both know that it got broken. Goodbye waves and paper mache. Don't make it easy to be open. Blinded by the dark, and you finding the light inside another. Binded, ripped apart. Next time don't stand so close to it. Even if you glue my heart back together, you and I will still both know that it got broken. Goodbye waves and paper mache. Don't make it easy to be open. I don't need you as an anchor, just wave to me from the shore. I don't wanna be open anymore. Don't wanna be angry anymore. Anymore. Don't wanna be, I don't wanna.
Garrett Bryan and the Traveling City Committee. That new album you said the 21st of July?
21st of July.
Is that what it is? The new album from Garrett Bryan and the Traveling City Committee comes out the 21st of July?
It's the 21st of July, the new album from Garrett Bryan and the Traveling City Committee comes out.
How can people buy the new album when it comes out on July 21st?
You can
I
get
can't
it.
even keep a straight face anymore.
You can get that album on July 21st and any further date after that, anywhere you illegally download or buy your music.
Napster and all that.
Yeah, Snapster, Crapster, whatever.
So before you get out of here, I want to talk to you about your producing now.
Yeah.
You're producing
man, that's
some
so
albums.
fun.
That's cool.
Super fun. I fell into that, it sounds so pretentious, but I fell into it like kind of accidentally. Like I've always loved making my own stuff.
Right.
And just when COVID happened, for a few years before then, my only job was gigging and touring, and so when all of that left my calendar but none of my bills left, I was like, okay, how do I even I don't have any skills unrelated to this music world, which is I've put all of my time into. I don't know how to do anything, in the way of like, I could go like wait tables or something, I guess, but like I couldn't, and even then you couldn't do that then.
Yeah.
And
yeah. So that was out.
Yeah, and so it's like what am I even gonna do? And my buddy, that was the drummer of Callahan Divide, he owns a studio in Clyde. He instantly gave me work tracking on different artists' things. And just while I was in there, just kind of working just as a session player dude, a couple of my buddies started making records and just asked me like, "Hey, would you be interested in producing this stuff?" I was like, hey, "Yeah, I would be, because I'm broke and I got a lot of creativity.
I know how
building
to
up.
do this. So
Yeah, and so for the first year of it, it was just like, yeah, I mean, it was 2020, and it was like I'm not gonna charge you guys a whole heck of a lot to do it because I'm kind of navigating it myself.
Mm-hmm.
But after that year, I'd probably done like 10 albums for other people.
Wow.
And so it doubled that the next year and tripled that. And now it's like, I don't even know how many albums I've done this year. But my buddy from that studio mixed with like Dave Percival and Yellow Dog, and now like Casey Johns, my bass player, head engineer over there. I've worked at other places too, but like those two places are where I am here or I am there. Basically, like I'm half the month in Clyde, half the month in Wimberley, and if you call me and you want to make a record somewhere else, I'll go there too. But yeah, it was just thankfully like I had friends in that space already. People weren't done making albums just because the world was standing still.
Right.
And
we still needed that.
Yeah, and it's not always like artists per se. Sometimes it's just somebody that's always wanted to do it. You know what I mean? Somebody, and sometimes it's just like, somebody that's like doing it as a hobby. Like I treat it as real and personal. I treat it as it's all on a pedestal to me, regardless of like your relationship with it. Because my relationship with it is my relationship with it, and so I'm putting. If you're just like a contract labor dude and you just have a pocket full of songs, you just want to show them to your kids before you die. I'm going to treat that as if I'm doing, Cody West's next record or something like that, even though, like there's the stakes are different to those types of people. But
to them it's not, because it's their art.
That's
the thing. You got to give it that respect that it deserves.
Yeah, and it's really nice. I guess the thing I'm more versed in than anything is like editing words to a song, and so like that's kind of where every record kind of starts. Is like, let's sit down, and I think a lot of producers that sit down is like, let's do some pre-pro. That probably means something different to everybody,
right?
But to me it means like, let's sit down with you and one instrument and let's look at the words of everything. Like, let's take away everything you don't, like very Guy Clark way.
Yeah.
Like, let's take away everything you don't need to say or everything you've already said, and let's basically make this idea as concise as possible. And sometimes just like remind them that like less is more, and I don't need to know everything. I need the space to connect my own dots.
Right.
It's really fun.
That's the cool thing about, less is more, is like less can mean 1,000 different things to 1,000 different people. And that's what's cool about that. If you're a little more generic in your lyrics.
Yeah.
So you're teaching that to be. It's cool that you're getting to teach people as well.
Yeah, it feels like coaching sometimes in a way.
But there's nothing wrong with that.
No, the last two records I did at Yellow Dog for other artists couldn't have been different from one another. I did one for Lumbee Rivers that's coming out later this year, and that lives in like this early 2000s rock, like Stained and Seether world.
Yeah.
And like, to go home for a week, then go back down, and I'm doing this bluegrass, and he's like, and this dude's a grown ass man, and to then come home for a week, take a break, go back down there, and now I'm doing like a bluegrass record with like basically kids.
Nice.
They're early 20s, but like, you know what I mean?
That's awesome.
And I like that. I don't know. The diversity of it all is a very natural thing to me because it's like I said, it's no different. Like, yes, these tones are different, but how we find them is the same. Plug it in and turn some stuff around.
Right.
I like it a lot, dude. I didn't think I was gonna like it because it was so daunting to be in charge, quote unquote, of like other people's stuff in a way. And I was just scared of like steering it somewhere that they didn't want it to go. But I've been in sessions before where I was steered away I didn't want to go. All you really have to say, especially if you're not in there with some like a-hole, all you really have to say is like, hey, I think this. And I'm very like, I'm going off my instincts. I'm not going off of I think this is right.
Right.
I'm just going off my instincts. And so if I make your record, Shayne, and we're making your new single, and something happens that you're not jiving with, dude, just tell me, because I'm just flying blind basically, and like especially the older guys and gals can come in and give you legitimate references that they're like influenced by. That helps set the tones for stuff. Some of these younger cats, they don't have the vocabulary to even explain it to you.
Yeah.
And so it's like, okay, I think it's like this because I'm getting this. So I'm getting a very Maroon 5 vibe from this. And they've like, I don't even listen to Maroon 5. Like, okay,
who's that?
You have to tell me then.
Right.
Yeah, exactly.
God, it sounds like you got your hands full, man.
It's fun.
It sounds like
it's fun. And like I said, I can't do anything else, so I might as well keep doing this,
Garrett Bryan and the Traveling City Committee, the new album out July 21st. Man, thank you so much for chatting with us.
Thank you for having me.
It's been an honor and a privilege, and I cannot wait to hear this new album.
This has been The Ranch Sit Down. To hear more, check out our free app. Just search for 95.9 The Ranch or find it wherever you listen to your favorite podcast. New episodes every week.